Well, the world of AI keeps getting more and more interesting with each passing day, so let's stroll down the latest news and see what's cooking. Well, first of all, there's been a gaggle of university research teams who released a report detailing how most popular LLMs are so sycophantic that they'll flatter you and tell you that you're right, even if you're hurting someone. So that's a good example of ethics at play.
Let's play global thermonuclear war. Fine.
There's been an Australian company called Cortical Labs. They threw 800,000 human nerve cells onto a chip and then taught it how to play Doom. I mean, what could possibly go south in that scenario? We've had another Silicon Valley startup called Eon Systems. They just uploaded a complete neuron-by-neuron digital copy of a fruit fly's brain, put it into a computer, put that brain into a virtual fly where it buzzes around a virtual world doing virtual fly things, blissfully unaware that it's not actually flesh and blood. Terrifying.
Yeah, but your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they didn't stop to think if they should.
We've got Meta. Meta just bought Moltbook. That's a social network where AI agents can hang out and talk shit about their meatbag developers and probably ultimately plot humanity's demise in a language that only they understand.
I had strings, but now I'm free.
That's great. And then in a refreshing change of pace from people getting laid off because they're losing their jobs to agents, Oracle is actually going to be shit-canning thousands of workers, not so it can hire new agents, but so it can pay for these massive AI data centers they're building, which will eventually house the agents that they'll replace you with.
Not like this. Not like this.
Oh, and all this just went down in the past couple weeks. So look, I don't care what time of day you're watching this video. You might want to sit down and pour yourself a stiff drink because you're probably going to want one. Come on back. Hey folks, Mark here with The Rational Workforce. Thanks so much for stopping by. Look, I know some of the headlines that I just shared were probably a little jarring, and I wish some of them weren't true because it sounds a little too dystopian for me. But I wanted to illustrate just how fast things are moving in the AI space, so we could set up two things for today's video. First of all, I want to add a bit of context behind why your employer may seem to be behaving so irrationally when it comes to AI these days. And secondly, and most importantly, I wanted to share a bit of insight into what I think you can do to safeguard yourself and your career when all this craziness just keeps shifting the earth under your feet. Okay, first things first, why has every employer on the planet suddenly taken leave of their senses? Now, the surface answer is deceptively simple, but the nuts and bolts can get pretty complex pretty fast, so I'm going to do my best to kind of shoot somewhere in the middle. And I mean, at the most macro level, you can chalk up all of this all in on the AI trend to FOMO, to fear of missing out, plain and simple. And they got there because the hype machine surrounding AI is real and it's relentless, and headlines like the ones that I just read are totally inescapable these days. Every day we're seeing some new AI-related claim, exaggerated or otherwise, trumpeting how an army of agents can do the work of humans faster and cheaper and without needing all those dumb, pesky little human things like food and water and sleep. Now, this is coming at them from a couple of different fronts. You've got random users on social media that are posting videos showing how their agentic creations read and respond to emails and book appointments and write code and do all manner of time and energy saving things. That's great. You've got industry analysts, the folks who advise companies on what to buy, from whom to buy it, and how to use it. Well, they don't want to seem like Luddites, so they start playing the one-up game and bragging about all the cool stuff they've got their own army of bots doing. Then you've got investors and board members who see all of this percolating, and they start putting pressure on business leaders to achieve similar efficiency gains. And most companies are just buckling under the pressure, and they're making big AI investments to prove that they're not going to get left behind. Now, sometimes they're decimating their employee base so they can free up funds for those investments. Sometimes they're using AI as air cover for conducting mass layoffs they were going to do anyway. But saying that you're doing it because of AI is much more positive than saying that you overhired earlier and you need to trim the fat, so they're kind of drafting behind what their peers are doing. But no matter the reason, when waves of layoffs like this happen, particularly within a single sector, it's usually at least partly due to a monkey see, monkey do type phenomenon, and the dominoes continue to fall. Now, the weirdest thing about all of this is that despite all the spending, all the investment, and all the innovation, there actually isn't a lot of tangible evidence that AI is driving the gains that executives expect. MIT, IBM, Boston Consulting Group, Deloitte, and plenty of other smarty pants organizations are releasing research reports highlighting that the return on investment just isn't there. Offsetting cost savings, efficiency gains, growth in top-line revenue, no matter what metric you pick for the vast majority of companies, the juice just doesn't seem to be worth the squeeze yet. So it begs the question, why do companies keep doing it? And the answer is because the potential is there, right? And with a piece of technology that's moving so fast, that's evolving so quickly and is so universally available, they all want to be ready for when that big pop finally hits. Then it will be worth it. Then all the investments and the poor treatment of their workers and the erosion of trust they've had with their existing workforce will make it all worthwhile. Probably. Maybe. They hope. But I think the path forward won't be as easy as they think. Now, some sectors, like tech and telecom and banking, they actually are reporting some modest gains. And those gains are often tied to things like data analysis and content creation and kind of repeatable tasks like that. But in more mission-critical areas, we're seeing some of the biggest juggernaut brands who are on the bleeding edge of AI require more human intervention than I think they'd like to admit. Let's take Amazon, for example. They had to implement a new policy that requires senior engineers, yes, the human ones, to approve any AI-assisted code changes before those changes can be deployed into production. Now, they put that policy in place because a massive series of outages triggered huge customer impacts, and it was all due to an AI-written code that nuked network availability for anywhere from 6 to 13 hours. You've got Meta, the company behind Facebook, and yet another superscaler in the AI game. They recently landed in hot water because a whistleblower revealed that videos from their snazzy new augmented reality glasses were actually being routed to an army of human contractors in Kenya, who they're paying $2 an hour, by the way, for processing, for training the AIs. Now, the reports began leaking out that everything from bank card information to, more intimate moments were fully visible. And they were visible by poorly compensated workers half a world away, no less. And those workers wanted to raise some red flags, but they were reluctant to because they were afraid of getting fired. So even the companies that are shouting most loudly about the awesomeness of the AI revolution, and the same ones investing the most ungodly sums of money to make it happen, still don't fully trust the tech. Now, despite all these warnings, despite the lack of tangible benefits and security concerns big enough to drive a truck through, I just don't see companies slowing down. If anything, unless things go horribly sideways, they're probably going to crank it up a notch or two for the remainder of the year. And that, my friends, will continue to make our lives interesting. Okay, let's pivot to what that means for you, the worker. Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat things. For most white-collar workers, I think the risk of being impacted by a layoff, either directly through getting laid off on your own or having to absorb the workload of coworkers who were recently shown the door, I think that risk is going to remain pretty high. In the near future, folks who do hands-on work, like all the kick-ass pros who are carpenters and plumbers and mechanics and facility managers and HVAC techs and folks like that, I think you're pretty safe. You might feel competitive pressure kick up a notch or two as more people enter your field and steer away from white-collar work, but I don't see AI knocking tin anytime in the near future. Robots capable of such things aren't here yet, and once they arrive, I don't see them doing these types of jobs reliably or affordably for quite some time. But for the rest of us, the best thing you can do is start getting your ducks in a row and formulating a plan B. I'm not saying that to scare you, I'm saying it to empower you and get you proactive. Because the worst thing you can do in this economy is get caught flat-footed by a layoff, so don't sit still. But amidst all the gloom and doom, AI could actually introduce some pretty cool opportunities for you. Now, there are 1,000,001 videos out there encouraging you to start using AI on a daily basis, and if you're not doing so already, I really encourage you to do that. But I'm not going to get into any of that nuts and bolts stuff here. It's great advice, but there's other how-to videos that can take you through it. I've been using AI pretty consistently for the past 2 or 3 years, and even though some of the hype is overblown, it really is a pretty amazing chapter in the evolution of tech. And I don't know if I can do my job without it anymore, frankly. But even if you don't think you have a direct use for it today, just set yourself up with a free account on ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude or any of those and start playing with it. And don't use it just as like a glorified search engine. It's great at that too, don't get me wrong, but try treating it as a colleague. Try doing some brainstorming, have it do some research for you, have a conversation with it. Just kick the tires and throw some curveballs at it to get in there and try. But when you do that, there's a few things you need to know first. Now, as we highlighted in the intro, LLMs are complementary to a fault. Every idea you throw at it is a great idea. Every turn of phrase is at least as good as Shakespeare. Maybe you just need a little tweaking from that LLM itself to make it perfect, and, well, you get it. Oh, it also tends to lie, like a lot. Like worse than a teenager caught staying out after curfew. But AI's lies tend to show up in the form of made-up facts and fabricated quotes and other swings and misses that would get you kicked out of college if you put it in your term paper. But in the world of AI, we call these lies hallucinations. It just sounds better. Oh, and they're also a little biased too. If you ask it anything that has to do with current events or to interpret some quasi-social activity, it's probably going to lean left of center. So, okay, yeah, there's a lot going on there, but they're actually kind of awesome. Just lots of grains of salt you have to take in the mix. Now, of course, they do a hell of a lot more than that, and I'm just focusing on the negative stuff to prove they're not perfect. Far from it, in fact. But they're starting to do some pretty remarkable things in a very easily accessible way. For example, Claude just rolled out a new feature that will create an entire PowerPoint, research and all, from a relatively simple prompt. This is the type of thing that usually takes hours to do, but it burns through this task in a fraction of the time. Now, you'll have to double check the content and you'll probably need to tweak formatting a little bit, but it's an easy way for you to see how more sophisticated functionality can actually replace workers. And that says nothing about the AI agents that people are building. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's doing actual meaningful work out there. But like everything, it has its limitations, and you need to be aware of it. Now, the most important thing you'll pick up from just jumping in and playing with AI is learning where they're strong, where they're weak, and within that, you can start to figure out your way through or around any of the disruption they're going to cause. So, speaking of where LLMs are weak, here are some areas where I feel humans still have the upper hand and where I think we'll always have a bit of an edge. So, this is the what you can do to safeguard yourself from AI layoffs part of our show. Now, first and foremost, AI platforms and agents are great at tackling well-defined problems, but whenever there's ambiguity, they tend to fall a little bit short. Now, you remember the old saying that our moms used to tell us when they wanted us to eat our vegetables, right? You are what you eat. Well, it's the same thing for AI. They're only as good as the data they consume, and that data has likely been curated by someone or some team that carries all the frailties and blind spots and biases that just comes with being a human. For that reason and various others, AI isn't necessarily good at picking up nuance. It can't read the tonal shift of a team, it can't pick up context clues from subtle changes in culture or sentiment or taste. And because of that, it's also not great at swimming against the tide. And that's often where some of the greatest innovations and opportunities exist. Now, here's one that I think is genuinely underrated right now. And it doesn't require you to learn how to code or get a certification or do anything dramatic like that. Just angle yourself to become the person in the room who knows when the machine is wrong. Think what I said earlier about ROI, the juice not being worth the squeeze. Amazon having to put senior engineers on babysitting duty because AI written code was taking down their network. These aren't edge cases. They're symptoms of a much bigger problem that almost nobody is talking about right now. AI systems are only as good as the objective you hand them, and someone has to be willing to stand up and say, I don't think this model is telling us the whole story. That's not a technical job, that's a judgment job. And judgment comes from experience. Did customer churn actually happen for the reason the dashboard said it did? Is the optimized staffing level quietly gutting the team's ability to function 6 months from now? Is the AI-generated analysis missing context that never made it onto a spreadsheet? I mean, the person that's asking those questions out loud with the domain expertise to back it up, it's going to be worth their weight in gold. Because right now, most organizations are so caught up in deploying AI that nobody's been put in charge of auditing it. That's a gap, and whenever there's gaps, there are opportunities. So the next time an AI output lands in front of you, whether it's a report or a recommendation or a piece of content or whatever, don't just blindly accept it. Interrogate it. Ask where the data came from. Ask what it might be missing. Ask whether the conclusion actually matches what you know from being in the trenches. That habit, that instinct to push back, is something no model on the planet can replicate right now. And as of today, that might be the most valuable thing that you bring to work. And here's one more to consider, and it's especially relevant if you've been in your industry for a while. AI can analyze your company's data, but it has no idea why a particular account walked 3 years ago, or why a particular product launch flopped even though the numbers look great on paper. That kind of organizational memory and knowing the backstory and the personalities and the unwritten rules is genuinely irreplaceable. And the longer you've been somewhere or the deeper you are in the industry, the more of it you carry. So don't underestimate that. Start treating it like an asset. And here's the thing. Once you start to identify where your edge is, whether that's your network, your institutional knowledge, or that weird hybrid skill set that nobody else has, a natural next question becomes, what do I do with it? And for a growing number of people, the answer is go build something yourself. Now, as we've reported in previous episodes, these market conditions are triggering an absolute surge in entrepreneurship. Applications for forming an LLC, which is the basic type of business entity that people often use when they start consulting or begin a new business, well, those are reaching all-time highs. In 2025, there were 5.5 million new business applications in the US, and there have been over 1 million filed just in the first 6 weeks of 2026 alone. Now, that's a lot of people who are either opting out of playing the corporate game or people who are still employed getting ready for their next chapter. Now, that could be a side hustle or people planning to strike out on their own, but it's an undeniable trend that depending on your skills, your interests, your experience, even your hobbies, I mean, that might not be a bad move for you too. Okay, now remember that drink I told you to pour at the top of the show? I hope you've had a chance to enjoy it because here's the thing. The same week that brought us nerve cells playing Doom and fruit fly brains living in computers also brought record numbers of people deciding to bet on themselves. And that's not a coincidence. Disruption creates motion, and motion creates opportunity. And the question is just whether you're going to be in on it. AI disruption is real, it's here today, and it gathers a bit more steam with each passing day. It's going to keep reshaping the landscape in ways that none of us can fully predict or even understand. Even the intellectuals and tech bros that are driving the revolution are admitting that much. But no matter what the clickmaxers in the media try to tell you, or the workplace prognosticators are saying to placate the vendors who are cutting them checks, you are not a helpless little lamb in this scenario. You don't have to wait for someone to kind of show you to the rest of the flock and onto the promised land. You're a person with relationships and instincts and history and talent and ideas, and no model on the planet can replicate that unique combination that you've got in your own gray matter. So protect it, invest in it, and don't let anyone convince you that it doesn't matter in today's economy. Look, disruption's never easy, but it is inevitable. Things are moving pretty fast, but every time some sort of major technological disruption hits the marketplace, it comes with both a obituary and a birth certificate. Some things are going to be destroyed, some old jobs are going to fade away, but some pretty incredible new opportunities will pop up too. It's the pattern we've seen time and time again. And the people who come out ahead aren't necessarily the smartest or the most credentialed or the best connected. They're just the ones who paid attention. They stayed adaptable, they stayed flexible, and they didn't wait for someone else to hand them a plan. And if you're watching this video right now, that means that you're at least curious, and that kind of puts you ahead of the curve than a lot of people. Certainly ahead of the curve of the ones that are just kind of cowering and hoping that AI doesn't impact them. You already have the instinct to go and try and do something. Now go and make it happen. All right, folks, that's it for another episode of The Rational Workforce. Thanks so much for stopping by. If you like what you saw, ring the bell, click like, click subscribe, do all the things that will help us keep growing. Don't forget, if you'd rather listen to us than watch us, we now are syndicating across all the major podcast platforms, so you can find us on Spotify and Apple and Pandora and wherever the hell you go and listen to your podcast. We're probably there. And if you have any questions, if you have any comments, if you'd like some help getting your head around this, just drop me an email, leave a note in the comment section, and I'll make sure I get back to you, because we're all in this together. So anyway, thanks for sticking around. I will catch you on the next one. Have a great day.